Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kata Chronicles.
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Kata Chronicles, and today's guest is an amazing guitarist. He's been with Desolated for fuck knows how long at this point. And he's just started a new journey as becoming a videographer. Please welcome Rich Desolated. How you doing, man?
Yeah, good, mate. You? I like
pretty good.
The guitarist bit. I probably beg to differ, but
nah, man. Like Desolated riffs are always fucking hard as shit, man. So
yeah. I think I'm a better writer than I am at actually playing the thing.
Do you regret some of the stuff you write and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, why did I write that? Just from a playing perspective.
No, I feel like what's happened is historically I've been like, oh yeah, I've got like 2 years to write a record, and then after like 18 months I'm like, well, I've written one song. So then, or like say it's like an album, I'll be like, I've written 6 songs and the last 4 just should have just done an EP.
Right, yeah.
That's normally my my downfall is I'm just my work output for writing music is so unbelievably slow.
I mean, I think a lot of London hardcore is unbelievably slow, the output that we put stuff out at. To be fair, you're just keeping up with the Knuckle Dusts and the 9 Bars of the world.
Yeah. I think I've as you get older, it's just so much harder. I'm just not inspired half the time. But then sometimes I can just turn out a song in like an hour. But then most of the time I sit there looking at a computer being like, I don't know what to write.
I think there's an element of, though, like you've been doing it for so long that you get to a point where it's like, have I just used everything?
Yeah, I am at that stage, definitely. 100%.
I found that when I started Infraction, I was like, I don't know what to write about at this point because I've done War Christ, I've done Proven, I've done bands before that, and I'm like, I don't know what else I've got left to say. Oh, shit, what do I do now?
Yeah. It's very difficult. And also, like, it's such a low tune in. There's only so much you can do with it. I feel like you're always under, like, the sort of 6th fret. So you've got, like, 6 choices of notes to go for. It's pretty challenging, and every time I've tried to sort of step outside the box and do something a little bit different, no one likes it. So I've just decided to stay in the box now.
Is it a case of like it comes that thing of like Desolated have a core fan base and they have a known sound, and it's like deviation from that now becomes a sort of what the fuck do you think you're doing?
Yeah. It's definitely that. Yeah, no one wants to listen to my clean guitar and sort of like attempts at trying to be like Behemoth. No one cares. Yeah. So
probably least of all your new singer.
Yeah. He's like that either. He's very simple. Just wants it heavy.
Yeah. Tony has obviously stepped up from bass and now become your vocalist. So you've now let one of the men with the biggest mouths on earth.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's a lot better at vocals than he was at bass, though, to be fair. So
I can see that.
Yeah. He's really good at bass slides, but playing it, maybe not so much.
Yeah. I mean, like he's been doing vocals for years, obviously. So
yeah, and it's interesting seeing him because obviously, like Idle Hands are sort of like. I feel like at this point, Idle Hands is just him having fun with his friends, which is like really cool and stuff. So it's interesting seeing him with something that he like takes quite seriously, even if he doesn't like to admit that he takes it seriously. He definitely does, because it's like you get a different vibe. And I mean, when we played the first shows with him in Ireland, I was a bit like, how is this going to go? And he just really knows the assignment. So it's pretty sick, to be honest.
It's quite interesting because like you say, Idle Hands was literally a bunch of schoolmates.
Yeah.
That just decided to pick up instruments and start playing at the same time, sort of thing. And that was what was always cool about their vibe, was like, it was literally a gang of 6 kids that had known each other since they were kids, and it was arguably a bit of a fuck about for them.
Yeah. And people have started to really like it because heavy music's really popular at the moment.
Yeah, but the thing with them is, I think what I liked about them was they didn't take it too seriously.
Yeah, definitely.
And I love that. Like, the whole tough guy thing gets real boring when everyone's doing it and no one realises really how silly some of it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need an idle hand with a bit of a tongue-in-cheek sort of approach to it.
Yeah, you do. And I think the thing is that they've got kind of better as well at being like what they are. They kind of found their niche of just like having fun, and it works for them. So I think that, they said that they split up, but I doubt they have.
I don't ever believe they've split up, because I think the 6 of them are so inseparable as people that they will always find an excuse to be like, fuck it, let's do one more show. Yeah,
I think the problem is they say they split up, but they probably just haven't got any offers at the moment, and they're waiting for them to fly in. As soon as they do, they'll be like, reunion, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's interesting to hear you say, like, he takes Desolated like proper serious, like it's more like nailed down.
At the moment he does. I hope it continues, but he just seems to kind of like, he's a lot more receptive. So I guess with Idle Hands, it's just him like having fun. But with Desolated, he's a lot more, well, he wasn't like this on bass, but now he's doing vocals. He's a lot more sort of like, right, what are we going to do for this? How are we going to do this? And what should we do with this? And it's quite planned.
Right, yeah.
Which is interesting because historically it's not been. And I think he's very much on the sort of planning front, which is good because it works. And you just feel a lot more comfortable. And it's really difficult, obviously, where, Charlie's away with Malevolence nearly all the time. So we have a lot of fill-in drummers, and we don't often get to practice, depending on where they're from. So it's not like you can sit in a practice room and iron out all the creases. So he's kind of just like irons them out, and like it puts all the songs together on like a Cubase document and just figures out all of the transitions with us. So it's really good to having him like problem solving as well, because I think it's something we needed for some time now.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not something I would have put down to like him and his personality at all, because I'm used to him in Idle Hands mode.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting to hear that sort of thing, that he's the planner, he's the organizer.
Well, I wouldn't say he's the overall planner, but he brings planning to the table, and he definitely sort of has a drive of wanting to be really good. And I think like, obviously you watch him with Idle Hands and it is fucking hilarious. Like the stuff he goes on about is so funny.
He's a very good frontman in that regard.
Amazing. And I think like a lot of people have sort of tried to get him to move into that road when we played, like close friends of his. And be like, oh man, you got to do the Idle Hand stuff, so funny. But he's always like, no, that's that, and this is this. Like, it's not the same.
No, it's funny because I was talking to Fatty, because I was recording an episode with Fatty the other day. We were talking about like the transitions between bands he's had to make, from like 9 Bar and Tirade and Injury Time and stuff like that, and like realizing that when you're writing for them different bands as well, you've kind of got to approach them differently, because not only is the music different, but like if you're repeating the same shit you're doing from band to band, there's not an awful lot of point in having 2 or 3 bands on the go. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of people fall into that sort of trap of just every band that they do sounds exactly the same. So yeah, and I think, so we're just about to, we're just about to release a record. I've just sent a record off to mix. Then obviously it'll be the first thing that Tony's done. And it'll be interesting because I think like for the most part, the record was written. And then obviously it was written with the idea of Paul in mind,
Yeah.
for vocals, and then obviously Paul left, and then Tony took over. So it's interesting because he's kind of like come and switched bits of it up and moved stuff around and added stuff that obviously we'd never done before.
Right. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to having everyone hear it.
He's come in and sort of done his own little arrangements with stuff and maybe moved this to here and stuff like that.
I think Tony's one of those people that anything he tries to do, he just gets good at it. And vocals is one of those things that he's like he actually knows like techniques and stuff. I haven't got a clue. I thought that people just shouted down a mic. To be honest with you, I thought that's how you did it. But like he has all of these things that he does, and I don't know. Like when he records, he's pretty quiet, but it always sounds really like crystal clear. But like I said, my concept of hardcore was that you just stand in a room and shout down a mic, but apparently it's not.
I mean, that's what I do. I pretty much shout down the mic and I just angle my head or I open my mouth in certain ways to get different sounds out of it, sort of thing. I know if I want to do like a scream or something more guttural, then I've got to sort of open my throat a lot wider so it doesn't tear it apart, sort of thing. Beyond that, I don't really think too much about it. There's a mic in front of me, I yell at it until it sounds good.
Yeah, right. But are you really loud when you do it?
Typically, yeah.
Right, okay. See, he's the opposite. It's like super quiet.
See,
like
I've seen this with
microphone.
I've seen this with some like death metal vocalists, where like they're in the booth and they just sort of they've got the guttural and everything going, but it's kind of quiet, so they can enunciate properly.
Yeah. So this is what that's like, and I mean, like I said, I honestly thought the hardcore vocals just shouting down a mic. But like you could record a whole song with him and he wouldn't run out of breath, or like his voice wouldn't break because it's just he's just really quiet when he does it. It's interesting.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone do it in hardcore. It's mostly because most hardcore vocalists aren't trained or have any idea.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where he got training from.
No, I assume he's watched some YouTube shit and all the rest of it. He's of that generation where like YouTube tutorials and shit like that are like a genuine thing.
Yeah, well, he had MySpace vocal lessons.
I can't remember. Someone was talking the other day about how they watched all the Melissa Cross videos and shit like that.
Oh, is that vocal coach woman?
Yeah, she has videos where she's got like Rob Flynn, Machine Head on there, and she worked with Freddie Christian from like Madball at one point and shit like that. So
it's right. I've been on a website a few times. It just feels a bit. It feels scammy. There's something about it because it's not like she's offering like. I mean, I might be wrong, and if she watches this, which I doubt she will. Like, if I'm wrong, I'll be corrected. But it seems like she's got like this thing going on where she does all this sort of content with like Phil Anselmo and all of these big vocalists from the metal world, and then just sells a course, but doesn't have like one-to-one vocal stuff. It's just like you're essentially buying her, like. I don't know. I
think that's what the setup is. I think that's what the setup is. Is like, here's a video of me doing this technique with this well-known vocalist, and then here's the course that lesson's included in, essentially, and buy this course for like $100 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
But I remember thinking, the person that showed it to me, and I was sitting there watching. I was like, and every vocalist that she'd worked with, since she'd worked with them, to me sounded worse. I'm sure it was helpful for their throat and their voice or whatever, making sure they didn't blow their vocals out. But I think Rob Flynn, when he started working with her, sounded worse. I think Freddie Madball, after he'd started working with her, sounded worse because he didn't sound as raw.
Right, okay.
Like, it sounded like trained.
Right. When did Rob Flynn start working with her? Recently, or is it a long time?
No, it was after the second album. So he did the first two albums without any assistance from her, and then when they did the Burning Red.
Oh, that was the worst one. That one was that the worst
No,
one?
it's that or the one that followed it,
That's
Supercharger.
the worst one. Yeah, yeah. Burning Red. Burning Red is like that's
The
the
new
one
metal
that
one.
started.
That's
Yeah, and he had spiky hair, right?
yeah. That's it.
And they all started wearing tracksuits. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that. Yeah, that one's. What song is on that? Is it From This Day?
I can't remember. It's got the cover of fucking a message in a bottle on it from Sting.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I remember. Yeah, yeah. That was. It wasn't great. I thought the best one was obviously Burn My Eyes and what's the white one called? The one with
Uh,
is it Emporium? Imperium?
Possibly because I basically after the first two, when the Burning Red came out, I was like, oh, this is fucking awful,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the white
and I
one, but
kind of gave up.
then that was when they started venturing into the sort of like 5-6 minute songs type thing. And then they did that Metallica like one, the Blackening, and it was all like 10-minute songs, and I lost interest.
Yeah. Why? Like, no offense, I don't need it unless you're like some prog band. I don't need 10-minute songs out of anyone.
No, it's pointless. I hate it.
When Meshuggah do it, I'm just like, for fuck's sake, man. Like, I appreciate the sort of skill level or whatever you're playing,
Yeah,
but I don't need an 8-minute version of Bleed that's just like that. It's like,
yeah, yeah.
like, cool.
People really like them. It's not really for me. I admire the heaviness of it,
Yeah.
but I just don't get it.
No,
I think
that's
that's
the
why
thing
I
for
like
me.
hardcore because it's like riff, riff, riff. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
and
Like,
then the best
I like
bit's
some
always at the end.
I like some technical shit. I mean, my favorite band is Converge,
Right? Yeah, yeah,
but I still think that there's a thing to be said about having groove and like an actual sort of almost gut punch feeling with the music, and you don't get that with something like Meshuggah.
no,
It's very much head
yeah.
music.
It's a different kind of tech, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what I call head music. It's like music you think about. You don't
Yeah,
really move to it when you're at a show. You're kind of sitting there stroking your beard, going, that's a very interesting time change."
yeah. That polyrhythm rocks.
Yeah, but no one's
Yeah,
actually like really involved in the music on that sort of level. Like when you go to see like Caliber and everyone's kicking the living shit out of each other.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? It's that's the difference to me. It's like,
yeah. And even like Converge, it's like I don't know. It's just frantic live. It's really, really
yeah,
frantic.
it's an emotion type thing as opposed to a
Yeah,
thought type thing. It's frantic because it's based on emotional stuff as opposed to it's crazy technical because we've thought about this and rewritten the riff 1,000 times.
yeah. It's not, is it? It's complete
Yeah,
opposite. Like
yeah,
the emotions, and I think Converge do it really well. Is when you see them because they've got such an extensive back catalogue, you get a different set every time. Like, as in,
yeah.
it feels so different. Like I saw them once, and they opened with. Oh, my knowledge of Converge songs isn't that good. Is it Jane Doe, the really long, drawn out song?
Yeah, that's
That's
it's the
like a
final song
10
on
minute,
Jane
isn't
Doe.
it?
Yeah.
So they opened with that, and it was just really like doomy and drowny, and you're stood there and you're sort of just like, "Ooh, wow," and it just set a completely different tone to the time I saw them before when they opened with what's the famous song? Is it Concubine?
Concubine or Saddest Day.
It's Concubine. Yeah, yeah. They opened with
Yeah,
that, and it was fucking crazy.
that's the first track off the same album. That's
Yeah,
like the
yeah, yeah.
bookend to that album sort of thing.
Oh, it was so good.
And you're just like, Jesus. The first time I heard Concubine, I was like, fuck me, what is this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just one of them tunes where you're just like, ooh, fucking hell. Like,
And the production on it is so good.
yeah. And again, I think I was talking to, it might have been Riz actually, we were talking about like, they're the perfect band in the sense of they're completely insular. There's no outside forces. Like the
Yeah.
guitarist records all the stuff. The fucking singer owns the record label and does all the artwork. Someone else within the band is the booking manager and shit like that. It's all
Yeah, and
just the four of them.
they're very talented guys because Jacob Bannon's artwork is incredible and it's so unique. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, what's the guy who records it? What's
Kurt
his name?
Ballou.
But yes, yeah. He it's God City, isn't it? Is that his studio?
Yeah, yeah,
So like that is probably in my head the best studio for analog music. For stuff that isn't
yeah.
digital and it's predominantly analog, that is the best sounding place you can go. So
Yeah,
it's
because you
like
listen to stuff he did with like nails and stuff like that, and it just sounds fucking
insane.
immense.
Yeah, he's so good. So fucking good. And the thing I like about him is he gives everyone a sound.
Yeah,
It's not just, oh, here's another album by so and so. It's like he gives them a sound. And even with the Converge stuff, um, it's every album sounds completely different.
yeah. As I mean, there's the element of they take their time between albums. Obviously, they're not like a quick churn band. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I think what he does is he goes away, he produces a bunch of other bands, and what he learns from that process, he then
Yeah.
brings into the next Converge album. He's like, okay, well, I figured all this other new shit out that I'd never done before.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
now I'm going to do it for the Converge album and perfect it for the new Converge album. You're just like, that's fair play.
Yeah.
That's what you should be doing because you want to make your own music sound the best it possibly can. And if that means
definitely.
learning the process from other bands while you're doing that, then fair fucks to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't fault that.
He is really good. Oh, what's he done recently? Has he done anything recently?
Possibly. I've not really followed much of his production stuff lately, purely because I just haven't had the time. But
That sort of sound comes in waves as well, doesn't it? You get a lot
I
of
think
like,
the last thing I remember him doing was probably that Converge Blood Moon album with Chelsea Wolfe and the
that
guy
was
from
good.
Cave In.
That's
It's a weird album. It's a very weird album, that album.
I can't remember. I think it's the one. I think is that the one with all the moons on the front. Or was that
No,
just-
that's All We Love We Leave Behind with the moon phases.
How long ago was that?
That's 20. I'm looking up on my collection because I know it's up there somewhere in CD form. Trying to think because it's like that's like 2-3 albums back, so it must have been around 2012ish,
Wow. Okay.
2015,
Yeah.
something like that.
I haven't. He did Code Orange, didn't he, as well?
He did
Code Orange.
everything up to Forever.
Is
He
that
produced some of Code Orange Forever, but then some of that was also handled by other people. The more electronic stuff was handled by other people
right? Okay.
because that's obviously
And then
not
he
his
didn't
thing.
do the next one, did he?
Yeah, the last two he hasn't done because they were all handled by people that were like more into the electronic side.
Yeah, and
Because Code Orange have basically become a heavier version of Nine Inch Nails.
so weird.
I mean, to be fair, everyone said they were a bunch of weirdos within the hardcore scene anyway. They even said it themselves, you know, like, we are hardcore kids, but we are like the weirdos within the scene.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've never been sort of shy about that fact, so you can't really...
Yeah.
It's weird to think, like, you go from I Am King, and literally two albums later, there's nothing recognisable about that at all.
No, and I mean before that record, was it I Am King? They had all of the Code Orange Kid stuff, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which was like, I don't even know what you'd call it, like the Holy Raw sort of sound, if you remember that label.
Yeah, it's a very like it's hardcore, or it has a hardcore element to it, but it's also got lots of like post metal type dreamy bits and pieces into it as well.
Yeah.
But then it'd go like really fucking heavy in parts, and it'd have like weird beat downs and shit.
It's like a different type of hardcore, isn't it? I mean, that scene's probably pretty big as well, but I just don't really know much about it.
That's the version of a hardcore scene that will make you money.
Do you reckon?
That Converge, Code Orange, that area of hardcore.
Yeah.
Because it also attracts a more sort of straight up metal crowd. Like, you go to a Converge show now, there's not many out and out hardcore kids there.
No, there's not.
There's a lot more metal people doing, if there's a mosh part, it's more of a push mosh than it is like...
Yeah.
When I used to see them back before Jane Doe came out, and it was like a proper hardcore show with people throwing fucking spin kicks and that.
Yeah.
You did that at a Converge show now, you just get fucking, what are you doing? Like, you look like a twat.
Yeah. it's more of like, I mean, I guess it's just more of a stage dive, push pit kind of thing, isn't it, these days?
Yeah. And again, that's fine if that's what people want to do. I'm not going to fucking tell them you can't do this or can't do that at a show.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I guess Converge are really good as well at playing different things. It's like Terror are great at being Terror. Like 1 minute they're playing like metal shows, the next minute they're doing the fucking best hardcore tour ever.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, Hatebreed used to do it. Hatebreed have gone more into like doing more metal festival type stuff these days.
Yeah.
But there was a period of time when they would go, "Oh, we'll do a metal festival this week. Oh, next week we're on like Hellfest. It's a pure hardcore thing in the US. So we'll just play a pure, almost like Satisfaction.
Yeah.
In its entirety type set and things like that. So
Whereas
bands that can do that are quite impressive because to be able to balance the two sets and just know, okay, this is going to be more of a metal set because it's more of that crowd. This is going to be more of a straight up hardcore set because that's what we're playing to. To have the catalogue to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty mad, isn't it?
Yeah, like I couldn't ever think about doing something like that. I'm like, right, if I'm going to do a metal band, I'm going to do a metal band and everything's going to be metal. And then I'll have another band over here as a hardcore band.
Well, I think it just used to be that if your hardcore band got big enough, you'd naturally just end up in metal because hardcore wasn't that big. But now, like, Kim Kardashian's going to hardcore shows, man. It's a different world.
I still can't get out of sight. You what? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's mad. Oh, no, it wasn't Kim. Who was it? Was it Courtney? One of them.
One of them. Like, they're all the same to me.
Travis Barker. Charlie was stood next to her watching Speed. It's just a casual picture online, and it's loads of people have cropped out Khloe Kardashian watching Speed, and I'm like, you're forgetting the fact that Charlie Thorpe is stood next to her.
Yeah.
Like, let's just take that in. Charlie is stood next to Kourtney Kardashian watching Speed. What world is this?
Did Charlie actually like sit there and double take it? Because if one of the Kardashians was next to me at a hardcore show, I'd be kind of like, what the fuck is going? Are we being filmed? Is this for something? Like,
you know what? I don't know. I haven't actually spoken to him about it. I imagine he was probably like, all right, that's interesting,
and just got on with it.
But they didn't. So I don't think they stayed and watched any other band. I think they just watched Speed and then dipped.
I mean, shitty behaviour from a hardcore perspective, but they're not hardcore people, so can't expect.
No, yeah, it's just a bit odd when you think that they were the opening band. You'd think they'd stick around and.
I mean, to be fair, Speed have obviously become that weird. I hate to say it, but they're not the corporate hardcore band. You know, they've got a Nike sponsorship for fuck's sake.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they have.
Yeah, I mean, it's like. It's a weird thing at this point in time, especially to me. Like I've been standing around going, flutes don't belong in hardcore since that came out, and I'm just like,
there. I think that.
They did.
I think the flute is just it's marketing genius. Like,
it's become their thing though.
Yeah.
It's bagpipes and corn. It's bagpipes and corn.
Yeah.
You know, fucking Incubus and the didgeridoo.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, if you could play a flute and you just want to like shred some flute on your records, then yeah, why not?
I think we were joking around, and I can't remember who said it. It was like, I think it might have been Gino. It was like, their next album is going to be a new metal album. If you've gone that far with putting a flute onto your record, the next.
I don't even know. I don't even know what they'll do next. I feel like Speed are a hardcore band. Like they're just a really good hardcore band, and like their videos are so good. They've got like the full package. And I mean, I mentioned the videos because multiple people that have sort of asked me about doing video work for the Speed is quite often the reference.
Well, let's get into that because obviously you've just recently, it's been a couple of years now at the very least I can think of.
About a year doing videos.
Yeah.
I think.
That you've been doing it. So what got you into doing it? Like, what was that thought process?
So I always wanted to do it. And I remember when I was 21, about 21, 22, I bought like a Canon 60D, maybe a 50D. I
Yeah.
don't even know. It was like a sort of like a middle of the range Canon camera. And I took a lot of portraits with it, and I think it recorded video. I'm pretty sure it did, but it didn't really. It was like the
Was it one of
beginning.
them limited time, like 15-minute things, and it shuts itself
Yeah,
down type thing?
5 minutes I
Yeah.
think you got out of it, and it was 720p. It didn't go higher to 1080, I don't think.
Right.
So I had one of those, and like I wanted to make videos, but I think the learning curve was extremely high back then because
Yeah.
like it just seemed it. And then on top of that, the gateway to entry was just so expensive. Like crazy. You're looking at crazy money back then to create a video like I sort of can create with relatively not much costs involved these days. Like you'd be looking at maybe like 10 to 20 grand for a setup, and it's just so fucking expensive. Whereas
'Cause you're looking
nowadays,
at like a couple of decent cameras.
yeah,
God knows how much editing software was costing them back then, unless you were using cracked gear.
yeah, and it would also, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know how you'd color grade back then. I have no idea. I have no idea how you would do it all. So it just seemed so impossible. But then when we did America,
Yeah.
I was talking to this guy who filmed one of our sets. We were going to use it for a music video, but then Paul's no longer there, so we can't anymore. So
All right.
I just paid him quite a lot of money for some really good raw footage of Paul. But I was chatting to him, and I was like, "Oh, what camera is that?" And he was like, "Oh, it's a Panasonic S5." And I was like, "Oh, wicked! Oh, that's cool. How much is one of those?" And he was like, "Oh, they're about $1,500." And I was like, "Oh, wow." And then when I got back, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go get one. I'm gonna try it, and I'm gonna try and make some videos." So I went and brought this camera, and I was living up north at the time, so I just filmed a lot of stuff for Ben Spencer because he always just wanted random stuff for his like watch salesman thing, and it worked pretty well, and I was pretty quick to pick up editing because I think I just like creative stuff, so I've got a little bit of an eye for it. Well, I like to think I have when it comes to it, and I can sort of bash through it quite a lot. And then I got really into color grading as well. But it's been a good process. I'm starting to get more music videos in now, which is kind of where I want to be. I just want to make music videos really. And yeah, just trying to get more and more work really through it. So we've just finished Low Life, which you were at.
Yeah.
And
you did False Reality like a day after that, didn't you? Because I remember you saying that the next day or so you was off to do False Reality.
I think they're bringing theirs out in January, maybe. I think theirs has been delayed because we did the video and then they wanted to do some reshoots and do some more performance stuff for theirs because they didn't have any in the original one. So we're going to do that, and then I think I've got one more. Who else is it? Torn Between, I think they're called. A couple of lads from Sheffield. So we're doing theirs, and their idea sounds pretty cool. So looking forward to that. And then obviously I'm away. You were Desolated, but then when I get back, I'll try and get some more.
Yeah, and that's what you're looking for, like more music video type stuff.
Yeah.
Because I remember I chatted to you probably at the Low Life one. You was like, I wouldn't mind doing some short film type stuff or whatever.
I'd love it. It just seems so impossible, though, to be honest, because you have to rely on people's acting skills.
Not only just acting skills, but there's also then it becomes a budget behind something. Like, obviously, a budget for a music video is one thing. A budget for a short film is like.
And like, I watched some stuff with some filmmakers, and all they talked about was the budget, and I was like, "Oh right, it's really a thing. It's not just a person with a camera." Like,
no, because like you've got the actors are going to want paying at some point.
Yeah. And you need
You
like
know,
to rig your camera on everything. So
yeah,
like it's not like you just stand well in our world like outside a couple of garages with a camera in your hand. Like they have it all rigged on like random stuff, don't they?
yeah. Like,
Which is pretty cool.
I,
I would like to do stuff like that within music. And I mean my first taste of it was the latest Low Life video where with that burglary sort of story going
yeah,
through it.
yeah.
Um and I think I'd love to do some more stuff like that because that was so much fun, so different, but
I
so
mean,
much
for me,
fun.
like, I've always said, like, I mean, none of my bands ever got to the point of doing a video, but I was like, I really hate, and this is no knock on bands that do it because it's just the obvious and easy thing to do. Really hate just performance videos
What like guitars?
where it's just like the band playing in whatever location they've
Yeah.
chosen. I'm just
Mm,
like, them kind of videos, I get why you do them because it's going to be, normally it's a band's first or second videos. They're easy to do because you've just got to set up somewhere and then act like you're playing the song
yeah.
and film it essentially.
I, I
Um,
I feel like though with those sort of videos these days, I don't know what purpose they serve. I think 5 years ago it made sense to do a video like that because people use
yeah,
YouTube. But now it's all like Instagram shorts and reels and things like that. I don't know. I don't think it would have any near on the same effect. I'm not really a fan of them, but the Biohazard video with all of that sort of stuff in is still probably my favorite video of all
and
time.
that's the thing. Like for hardcore, that's always the sort of gold standard.
Yeah,
Everyone remembers that video, like, and even people that weren't born when that video came out, it's
yeah,
been so sort of ingrained into hardcore culture that that video on that bridge and all that sort of shit, and it's because there's all the other bands involved in it.
yeah.
Like you could pick out loads of faces from like, every other New York hardcore band at the time.
Yeah, and it's also as well, it's like it is a performance video at heart, but they have so much more going on with it. And like all of the performance shots with like the big crews of people behind them,
Yeah,
they make it interesting.
I think that's the thing as well. If you're going to do that kind of video, and I think we discussed something about it when we were looking when we was doing the low life video. And I think we mentioned to you like we were talking about the live footage and
Mm,
how a beatdown show can look not great on camera because you've got one or
yeah,
two people spinning around. A hardcore show looks good is when it's everyone piling on and stage diving and shit like that.
absolutely, yeah.
So beatdown stuff can be quite difficult to get live footage for and make it look good. And the
Yeah,
same with them performance videos is if you don't have that large number of people around. Like I remember the Ironed Out video. I can't remember what song it's for. It's one of the singles they released the other year. But there was loads of us on a bridge and stuff like that, and it
the
made it look
one that was
really,
in Bermondsey.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's loads of us on a bridge and stuff like that, and it looks because the bridge is narrow, you're able to make a few people look like a much bigger group of
Yeah,
people because it's a narrow bridge and things like that and tricks like that. But if it doesn't look like a large amount of people, it just looks like a scattering of like 5 or 6 people.
yeah.
It doesn't have that effect. At that point, it may as well just be the band because who are these
Yeah.
5 or 6 random dudes hanging out behind them, sort of thing. Like,
Yeah, definitely. I think that Iron Out video is a really good video as well. That
yeah,
is that's like top tier for a group, like for people, sort of like a crew video where there's loads of people behind you. That was a really good one. They smashed that.
yeah. I can't remember who directed that, but it was so like I was there for the day. I was just like, the choice of locations helps that kind of thing because again, it's that making a large area look small and making people look like there's more of them than there really are.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
just obviously just blocking out the scene so it works in that sense. And I think hardcore bands when they're doing it because obviously like you guys as the directors you're going to have some input but at the end of the day the band's going to say yes or no to something.
Yeah.
And I really
Well,
do wish bands would spend more time thinking about what it's going to look like
yeah, and I think
when it's on screen.
you get a mix because you get like trying to think like so like the Chained Up video I did, Isaac was really into it and was like, I want to make a sick video. I want this. I want that. And then Murray as well from Low Life is the same. Like they have a vision. They're like, we want it to look like this. Like they might not necessarily come with like an idea, but when you feed them an idea, they're like, right, this is what I want. This is how I want it. Blah, 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 blah. Can we make this? Can we make this? Like this looks wicked. We want that. And it's good when you get a lot of input, because I think some bands and a lot of bands that I've spoken to that obviously just didn't go anywhere, didn't even get to making a video. They just don't have any ideas at all.
Yeah, I mean, because I think most people know that I've worked with an artist in the past for like Proven stuff and Infraction stuff.
Yeah.
When Infraction were talking about doing a video, I worked with him and he did a load of storyboarding for it.
Right.
Because I was like, yes, you're going to have the performance bit cut into it because we're a hardcore band and we don't have a massive budget. But also like this more cinematic story bit being told around that. And so we sat down and worked out a storyboard for everything. So that when I did have a director or when we was going to do it, we would have all this to show them and be like, right, this is the story. This is what it is. And I just think that bit of, okay, we never end up making a video, but that bit of pre-planning
it goes a long way.
Being ready for it, because it means the video shoot's going to go a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Which would inevitably make it cheaper, because you're not paying for the extra days of work or whatever. You're like, right, this, and this.
Especially if you are going down the sort of story route, that it just has to be so pre-planned.
Yeah. It's the same with like making the music though. I've always said, I mean, the more you pre-plan it and work it out and figure shit out before you hit studio, the less it's going to cost you in the studio.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not going to be fucking around being like, oh shit, like we need an extra day because we didn't think about this guitar solo or this, that, or the other sort of thing, or we're going to change some of the song around or whatever at the last minute.
Yeah.
If you're going through it fairly pre-planned,
you're normally all right. Yeah. I mean, these days I find with studio stuff, like, I mean, we have the demos that we track here, and then we're essentially just you're just making a better version of your demo, like these days, because it's like you've got all the click tracks from the demo, you've got the guitar guide from the demo, you just use that, and then you just retrack it all again. So like, I always feel like for me, like the magic of studio is just kind of gone now. Because it's like, oh wow, here's the thing that sounds slightly better than my demo.
I mean, the thing is, like, for me, it's the creating process at the start of it that I love.
Yeah, right.
So when we're in that sort of demoing process sort of thing, I love just sitting there with like, because I can kind of fumble around with a guitar, not to the point where I could play in a band, but like I can come up with an idea and be like, something like this, and then an actual guitarist go, oh, you mean this, and they'll perfect what's in my head sort of thing. But I do find sitting there going like, oh, well, we want to do this and we need to bring the tempo down here and bring the tempo up, and just fucking around with things like that. I love sitting there with a guitarist and a drummer or whatever and just being like, oh, I'll change this, do this kind of beat, and just organising all the music.
Yeah,
that's probably one of the most fun things that I find with music. Sometimes more so than going on stage. Yeah,
fair. I mean, I find that for me, it's kind of the opposite. I've get to a point where I'm just so frustrated from like writing demos.
Yeah.
I think I'm just such a perfectionist when it comes to writing, because I'm like, I will write something and I will fiddle with it until like just for weeks. I'll be like, I'll change that tempo by 5 BPM, and like it's like I like to write. It's like I've got the bones, now I need to put the flesh on it. And so I remember I was sending Tony demos, probably a couple of months ago now, just of this one breakdown. I was looking for the perfect breakdown, and I kept sending it, but he was just like, mate, you sent me like 8 different versions. He was like, just pick one. And I was like, no, it's not perfect.
I can get like that with stuff because I'm just like, oh, could we like I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, but again, it was one of them things where I was listening to my new band's like demo stuff that we'd done in studio and just recorded it on my phone. And then I was trying to write lyrics for it. And as I was listening to songs over and over and over again and sort of going through them, I just went back into the studio one day and was like, we need to scrap everything because none of this sounds like a cohesive band.
Right.
Like none of the songs, like they're all great songs individually, but it didn't sound like a cohesive sound for a band. I was like, we need to pick one of these songs that's going to be the core of our sound and then work from there.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And it was like, I could understand everyone in the band's frustration, but at the same time, I'm like, if it doesn't sound like it's the same people
Cohesive.
doing it,
Yeah. What's
it
the
just sounds like a
point?
bit of a mess, then I don't
Yeah.
want to do it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm the same like that. It's like, I have certain things in my head where I'm like, that's not good enough. That's not right. We can do better than this.
And I feel like this is why people use producers, right?
Yeah.
Kind of tie it all together. Like you go in with your song, and you sort of like, oh, yeah, I've got this song, got this song, got this song, whatever, and then they kind of like make it cohesive.
Yeah. And sometimes that's going to be them just doing an engineering job on it.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, I think people forget that an old school producer would actually be like another member of the writing team.
Yeah. Well, that's
I
what
would
it's
see that.
back to now, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be like, you need to tweak this riff or you need to add something here. And they would go through the song with you and kind of go, what have you thought about this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? To try and make the songs as good as they can be. And sometimes you're going to be pushed back and be like, no, actually, we like it how it is. And that's the end of the discussion. But sometimes someone from outside the band is going to come up with an idea and you're going to be like, that's what we were missing. Fucking yes.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think if we do another record after this one, I'd like to use one really, and just kind of write with them.
Yeah, just to have like that person to bounce off of.
Yeah, just to kind of get someone else's ears on it, and I mean, you might like it feels like you pay people to like record it. Why don't you just pay someone to help you with the actual bringing it together?
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, to mix a record these days it's expensive, so you might as well get the best record in there in the first place.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, because you can spend, obviously the recording equipment is available for home studios pretty cheaply now.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, like, I can track like relatively good demos here. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be better. I'm not gonna lie to you. I use every single preset that I have. I don't know how EQ works or compression or any of the things. I click on the one, and if it's on a bass drum and there's a preset for a bass drum, I will use that.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just like, that'll do the job.
Fine.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
Like, I remember when I was working with Adam on Infraction and we did the first demo, because the original first release was written originally just by me and Adam, and then we recruited the band after we'd done it. And we spent about 2 sessions just working on a guitar tone.
Yeah, that can happen. Definitely.
Just being like, is this right? You know, what we're going for, and just fucking around with it, slight up, slight down, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And it sounds like an absolute nightmare, but even that, for me, is fun, because I'm like, what sound am I going for, and how close to it can we actually get? And like, what do we need to do to get there? And it's almost like a chemistry experiment. You're like, oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, definitely. No,
Did it explode in my face? No. Good.
I think that is the fun part of the studio. I reckon that's like when you're like crafting the sound. I've just got one of those quad cortex things, and like it's pretty cool. Pretty cool, to be honest. I've never had anything like it, and it's a bit overwhelming though, to be honest with you. I mean,
they've only just got to the point where the neural DSP stuff you have on your PC
is now on there, right? I've got an email.
You can now actually add your presets that you've set up on your neural DSP on your computer onto the quad cortex, and not all of them yet, but quite a few of them.
Isn't it just the Gojira one? And there's another one.
Which I've got the Gojira neural DSP on here, and I think you can use that on the Cortex.
Yeah, because I got one of them. They sent me one for free as like a gift for waiting, and I think it was basically so you put it on your quad cortex or whatever. And I think I chose the other one that wasn't the Gojira one. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, The Gojira one's really cool because it's got some nice clean effects on it as well. So if you do want to drop into clean stuff,
Right.
you've got some cool shit on there as well. I've got a few tones that I've set up on that are quite fun to fuck around with.
Yeah, I need to actually look at it and see how the plugin stuff actually works on there, because I'm a bit apprehensive because I don't want it to sound overly digital.
No, and
even though
that's
it's digital.
yeah, that was the thing when we were recording the Infraction stuff and we were using all the new DSP stuff to come up with it. It was like, right, rather than making it sound, because a lot of modern metal just uses the Gojira archetype and a couple of basic presets on there, and that's your modern metal sound right now because everyone wants the Gojira tone.
I thought so, yeah.
And it's just like, so me and Adam, like he had the Gojira one and he had like one of the other 14 ones or something. So we were just trying to blend different amps and then be like, there you go, that doesn't sound like the Gojira amp. So we're good to go.
Yeah. I mean, but what I did for when I tracked the guitar for the album on here, I just set up like a Mesa Boogie modeled head.
Yeah.
With like a Mesa cab and then like a what are they called? Soldanos?
Yeah.
And then just tracked it 4 times. So two on the left and rights with Mesa and then 2 on the left and rights with the Soldano. And that actually sounded pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it didn't sound fake, which I liked. It's very loud and it's fuzzy and it sounds really like...
Yeah, and that's what you want. You want it to sound like an actual amp as opposed to like, it sounds like a computer emulating an amp.
Yeah, which is what I always find those plugins sound like, to be honest.
Yeah. It's also like the when you get digital drums, like, unless you spend the time really, really focusing on the programming of that, it would always sound like a digital drum.
Yeah,
right.
And the problem is most people that program drums aren't drummers, so they just make fills that no one could play.
That was the thing with Infraction. Like, Adam had programmed a bunch of drums, and then when Tom sat down to play, it was like, why does it change on like the sort of like halfway between 2 beats sort of thing?
Yeah.
It's like you'd get to the 4 and it'd be like halfway between the 3 and the 4, something else would happen. It'd be like, why does it do that?
Yeah.
And it's because Adam's not a drummer.
Yeah. And like for me, I just do like for most of the fills, just like digga 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 digga. Whereas like, I got the actual live drums back from Charlie, and I wouldn't even know how to program the fills that he was doing, to be honest.
We found that I can't remember what is it. I can't remember what the program is. What's the main fucking drum program that you use?
People use different ones. I use that Get Good Drums.
Right, yeah.
That's
I can't remember
Superior Drummer.
Superior Drummer, that was it. But it's got some sort of already programmed fills and beats and shit on it.
Yeah. You just put them in there, can't you?
We put them in there, but then cut them and chop them up so that it's not the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So we were doing shit like that, but then obviously that leads to not very cohesive fills because it's like it's half of this and half of that, and then you get poor Tom sat there going like, right, you want me to hit that and then that?
Be like, if there was like a metal pack of fills, I'd be like, nah, fuck that off. Right, let's find the jazz fills.
Yeah, exactly what we were doing. It's like, where's the fucking crazy funk feel and stuff like that?
Yeah. Like you want to like challenge yourself, don't you? You don't want to just limit it to strictly 16th notes.
Well, we as non-drummers want to challenge ourselves.
Yeah.
The poor drummer sitting there going like, what the fuck have you done? And why the fuck have you done this to me?
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah.
But we were doing shit like with the tempos because everyone was saying like, if you got running double kicks, a left foot would always be weaker than a right foot or which way around. So you have to like, every other beat, you have to drop the tempo off slightly so that it sounds human and shit like that. Yeah. And I was like, but mate, like, how many times we use a double pedal in a 3-minute song? Fuck me, we'll be here all day just adjusting the tempo on like the left foot.
And I mean, I swear when people do it, like produce drums, don't they just like put in the same sample on a kick anyway? Like if you were going to record live drums.
Certainly in like death metal and that, it's a lot of triggers.
Yeah.
So that it sounds that perfect, like on a blast. And it's like, that's humanly impossible.
Yeah.
One foot is going to be weaker than the other, or it's going to taper off as you get tired throughout the song. But the drum sounds perfect every single time. Yeah, because you're using triggers.
And I feel like when it comes to recording with drums, there's always a new way to record drums.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
Like,
doesn't surprise me at all.
I've been going to the studio, like it just changes all the time. Like there's people figure stuff out. It's the same with guitars, really, as well. I've seen a lot of changes over the years with guitars.
Yeah.
And how people.
I mean, I wish. There's part of me that wishes people didn't record to clicks as much because it doesn't sound human.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the slight ebb and flow, but then you get drummers that will just speed up relentlessly until they're playing blast beats by accident.
Right. Yeah, and I think with that, it's kind of like I wouldn't know how to like set up a project without a click.
Yeah, because you're so used to it being like on Pro Tools or whatever program you're using. It's all like 1, 2, 3, 4 to like, and you've set it specifically to like 182 BPM or whatever, so it's very specific and tight. And if you're programming drums, you kind of need to do that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're going to be like, where the fuck do I place the snare here and stuff like that? So it's on the grid. But when you go to record it live, I wonder if it's just worth having that in the background as like, here's what we should be playing, so you know the riffs and stuff and what the beats are going to be. But then just taking the click away and being like, right, we're just going to play it live in studio and record it from that.
Well, I think that's how you have to do it, isn't it? What I remember is like you send like a sort of signal of your guitar to the drummer's ears, and then you just play together.
Scratch track, essentially, yeah.
The problem is like, I've got to be honest, I mean, I don't even think, like, if you sat me in a room right now and said, I'll play track 6 of your new record with Charlie, I wouldn't be able to do it. Like, there's so many drop-ins and stuff like that where I'm just, like, not comfortable with it at all, not playing the songs. I've never played the songs with a real drummer.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I wrote it to program drums, sent it to Charlie, and then he tracked real drums. It's crazy. And
you've probably never played the song in its entirety all the way through.
No.
And you won't until you start getting the practice room to start getting ready to go and tour it.
Yeah, until I'm told. Until I'm told, like, oh, you're playing that one this week, and I go, oh, fuck.
What the fuck did I play? I mean, I remember the biggest one for us for that was Proven, because there's a song, Life Death, that has no open notes.
Oh, right.
So, and it's pretty frantic. It's all like 1 up to 8 and shit like that. And it's just like, and it's not drop tuned either. So it's all like fucking bar chords up and down the neck with not a single open. And Mark had written it. And when Adam started playing it when we played live, he was like, why?
Yeah.
Because he was just like, you know, because he was explaining to me, it's like an open note for a guitarist. He's like a singer taking a breath. It's like, I like relax my hand for a second, and this is a 4.5 minute song with no opens, and he's just like, yeah, that's pretty good. Crying with arthritis, sort of thing by the end of it. Yeah,
that Victim song we wrote doesn't have any opens either. It's all on. I barred like the 3rd fret, so it sounds a bit like it's tuned a bit higher, and that gives me cramp every time we play it.
Yeah, it's just. You think, oh, it's a good idea when you're writing it because you're writing it in sections.
Yeah, I should have just tuned up to drop B, if I'm honest. It would have made so much more fucking sense.
So what are you tuned to normally now?
Drop G sharp. So stupid. So ridiculous.
At that point, I assume you got to be looking at 8-string guitars just to be like, fuck it, I don't have to like have floppy strings all day long.
Just really heavy gauge strings. I use a 7-string at the moment, but It's, I brought it because I just wanted a guitar that sounded really good in a low tuning. Do I like 7 strings? I don't know. I'm still I'm in an hour in about it. I played a 6 string at the weekend when we played, and it felt like playing a toy after playing a 7 string. But yeah, to be honest with you, it's just heavy strings. It's a ridiculous tuning though, and I kind of hate it at this point. I just don't know why.
You chose it.
Yeah, when I was 16. No, 17. When I was 17, I thought it was a really awesome idea. And also, it was drop A, but then my tuner broke and it tuned everything down half a semitone, and I recorded a record with it, so it just became drop G sharp.
Which is exactly what happened with Infraction. I think Adam said that he'd been fucking around in between, just pissing around with his guitar in different tunings. When he went to record the second EP, he hadn't tuned back up to C.
Yeah.
So the second EP is all in drop B, whereas the first one's in drop C, and it was just like, I didn't even think to recheck my tuning. I just went and did it.
Yeah.
I was like, fair enough. Like, we're in drop B now, boys and girls.
Yeah. That's quite a not. Yeah. That's what is that? Half a step, isn't it?
That's a step. No. Is it?
Yeah, half. There's no B sharp, is there?
Yeah, there's no B sharp, no.
That's, yeah. I think drop B is probably as low as you can go with it still sounding like an actual guitar.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a fan of going much lower than, like, I'd prefer to stay in C, C and D and stuff like that, just because I think you get clarity. Once you start getting down super low, it doesn't matter whether you're holding the 1st fret or the 11th fret, it all just sounds virtually the same.
The problem is with lower tunings is it's like you end up, like on records, they're great, but you end up in this zone of you have to kind of put a lot more work in than everyone else to make yourself sound good live. Which is
what first of all, you're relying on really good amp equipment to do it, because if you turn up at a venue and they've got shitty gear, you're going to sound like crap in them low tunings because it will just sound like mud.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at that point, you're bringing your own gear and presumably quite expensive gear to make it sound half decent. And then you're relying on a sound man who knows what the fuck he's doing with low tunings as well.
So basically, I have eliminated both, bought a Quad Cortex and got a sound guy now. So because I just can't deal with it anymore. So we have our own front of house guy, and it's amazing. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, if you can do it, it's probably the way to go, because they know what you should sound like.
Yeah, and they know the songs as well, which I didn't realise that's the thing that people did, and they automate the set a bit more. Yeah, it was just getting so bad playing, and just like you literally, like, the amount of times I've played a gig and I've looked and like the mic's not even in front of the cab anymore. And the sound guy is just not even aware. Like,
completely oblivious because he's at the other end of the venue, sort of thing. That's like,
yeah. And he's like, he knows, but he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, that guitar's not picking up anything anymore. Well.
I do find that with hardcore shows though, like you will see, like, there seems to, I don't know whether it's just the people involved, whatever, there's just less care and attention paid when there's a hardcore band on stage, because they're just like, well, it's fucking hardcore. What is it? It's supposed to sound crappy, and so they just stop caring. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's just annoying, to be honest. And I just thought, wow. We've been toying around with the idea for a long time, and then I was like, no, let's just do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you're in a position where you can do that, and you've got someone that is a good soundman and knows your songs off by heart, then they're just gonna. I remember, like, when we put on Archangel came with their own sound man.
Yeah, Europeans love it. They love having their own sound guy. I swear. Yeah.
He just literally rocked up, and his sound guy sort of looked up at the sound man that was there and was kind of like, fuck off.
Yeah. They come with their own desk now as well. That's new to me. They rock up with their own desk.
Yeah. Just plug it, unplug your shit and right, here we go.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I like it. I'm about it. The guy that we found as well is like a hardcore guy from Sheffield, so it's sick.
Yeah.
So it just goes a long way, and it's nice to have like an extra person in your sort of traveling party who's cool and you can hang out with, and
Yeah,
you
there's
get
that.
it. Whereas I think if we just had like a regular front of house guy, I'd be a bit like, whatever. But it's nice to have like a guy that gets what you're trying to do on board as
Yeah.
well.
I know, again, it's that thing. He knows your sound, he knows your song, so he's just going to put it forward and do the best job that he can for you, sort of thing, as opposed to just being like, well, I'm just going to tune the sound as best I can and not worry about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That mic's
Which
not
tends to be
anymore. Oh well.
Yeah.
I'm going for a
Oh, well,
tea
fuck
break.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's when the vocal mic cuts out and you're looking at the sound man being like,
Yeah.
pointing at your mic, and they're just like, so, bruv, like,
And you know what, right? It's the smaller venues aren't the problem. It's the big ones. The big ones are the stressful ones.
yeah.
Like you would think it would be the other way around. You would think it would be that the small venues would be awful sound, blah 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 blah. But 9 times out of 10, in a small venue, you've got some guy who just fucking loves sound working behind the desk.
Yeah.
And they built that PA with their bare hands. Like
Yeah.
they know the ins and outs of that PA and they make it sound fucking sick. Whereas your massive venues where it's like run by a corporate company like Live Nation or something, like they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like they're not. Well, I don't think it's that they don't give a shit. I think it's that they are not used to bands coming through who want to use the house sound guy, so they just employ anyone.
Yeah. And it's, yeah, because obviously they're used to just like big, massive metal band comes through who's obviously got some of them 2 sound guys.
Yeah.
With them sort of thing. Like I've seen Machine Head travel with like 2 sound guys and shit like that. And they're
Yeah.
And God knows what like the real big bands like a fucking Metallica or someone like that is bringing with them, because they're bringing like trucks of shit with them. So
Yeah, I mean, they must have just someone that sets everything up.
I don't know if you've ever watched like some of the Iron Maiden documentaries about like Flight 666 and shit like that. And they've got like, you've got the band, you've got their roadies and shit for the guitar techs and all of it, and then you've got a production crew.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it?
Like, you know, they've got people that are setting up, but they're running the cables for the venue and shit like that, and they're like, right, that's when it's like silly levels.
But I didn't realise, like, I think that production stuff starts a lot earlier than you think it does. Like, I thought it was for like your Metallicas, but I think it's for your like, wow, I think it starts like kind of your 1,000-cap venues. Like people start bringing in production, like lighting crews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. It was completely new to me, that. But that is a thing.
I think it's similar to like the record label thing.
Yeah.
There's a point in time in a band's career where they don't need a record label because you're a small band starting out. Bung it in these day and age, bung it up on Spotify, you're good to go.
Yeah, definitely.
That'll get you your first few shows and all the rest of it. There's a point at the other end of the scale, you don't need a record label because now you're so big and so well known, you can release it yourself and no one's your commodity of your own.
Yeah.
And then there's that bit in the middle. Yeah, where to make that jump, you're going to need a record label to do a lot of the shit for you and make the connections for you.
Yeah. And
it's that weird chunk in the middle where you're not in control of it as much anymore because it's too big for the small band to understand it, but the band isn't quite yet big enough to be able to go back out on their own. Do shit just off the back of their own name.
Yeah, and it's the same as like the management stuff as well. I mean, it's the same thing. Bands just get to a point where they get a manager in because they want to play more shows, they want to play bigger shows.
Yeah, and they don't have the connections to get to them sort of shows. So they're like, like your name, again, when you're in a small band, your name will carry you to a certain level as you get bigger. And then it's that, right, now I want to take that next jump to being like an opener on a festival or some shit.
Yeah.
Now I need a manager or an agent or stuff like people that can make them things happen that I can't make happen on
You're just
your own sort of thing.
You get to a point where you have to kind of choose what you want to do, whether you want to continue just doing what you're doing or go into a higher level.
Yeah, it becomes that thing of like, okay, is this a hobby where I'm having fun, which is how I treat hardcore stuff. I love doing what I do. I have no intention of it becoming a career or anything like that, because that becomes chaotic. And I've always said the things that I like doing for fun, if they become jobs and work, I'm not sure if they remain fun.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So I've always enjoyed that. But like, if you get to a point where you're like, okay, we're now hitting these ceilings and we can see what's possible next, but we just don't know how to make that jump. That's when you start going to like an agency and being like, hey, can you sign our band? Because we need someone that's going to help elevate us to that next level.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's like, I don't think I would do it again. I don't think I would do anything like that, but I just like playing gigs. And if someone came along and said, hi, I'll get you more gigs,
you'd be up
and they'll be good. How does that sound? I'd be like, well, I'm listening.
Yeah. What have you got to offer at that point?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What? How many gigs? What sort of gigs? Where? So I guess it's like, I don't know. I don't really like the idea of it, to be honest. I find it annoying, but I do get it. Like, I'd be all ears if it meant that I could play more gigs.
Yeah. But like, when you think about where Desolated are now, is it something you'd even need at this point? Like, Desolated's a name unto themselves pretty much, where they can probably do shit. Like, people want to see Desolated.
The problem is with it, and I think the issue you get is when you haven't released anything in so long, and I think I need to revisit this conversation when we do our next release and see where it's at then, is I think people just aren't really that interested in booking you. There's no urgency to book you because they can book you whenever. There's nothing that's come out. I think that's the problem that we've been facing for probably about 2 years now, is they're like, well, you haven't released anything. When are you releasing something? And you're like, oh, okay. And it's like we'd get like maybe one or two fests a year, and then a couple of shows here and there dotted about.
Yeah.
But it was kind of hard to get anything more, really. So, but now, since we've confirmed that Paleface tour, it seems to be picking up quite a lot, and I think people know there's a new record coming out. So hopefully now it'll be the time where it starts to kind of pick up a bit, and I think then it'd be worth looking at again.
Yeah, and like, you know, I say this is open forum. If you want to jump back on here later on after the album's come out, and then we can have a look at that conversation and be like, right, do you feel now that you've hit that point where it is show after show after show after show because you've got the album out?
Yeah, it's hard to know where it's going to go, to be honest. Be interested. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how people, because it will be the first thing that we release with Tony. So I'm looking forward to seeing people take that, really.
Because it was like when we played with you, when Infraction played that show at the New Cross Inn with Desolated, like the free show.
Was that the free show that sold out?
Yeah.
That one.
That was like your reunion. That was like a reunion show for you guys, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think we did Upsurge first, though, right? Was it?
Yeah,
Upsurge?
you did Upsurge for. Yeah, and then
we did
like
that free. Yeah.
And then COVID hit.
No, it was. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
because that was November 2019.
Yeah. But like, hardcore was on its arse at that point, I think, and it got bigger after the pandemic, which makes no sense at all.
I don't know. I don't know if it makes no sense, because I think people were sat at home. A lot of kids discovered Hate 5-6 in that time.
Yeah.
Bizarrely, and suddenly they were like, "What's this? What's this? This looks interesting." Oh, but it can't happen at the moment because everything's locked down. But once it comes back, we want to be involved in this. And there was like, when we did UK Hardcore Returns, there was so many. Yeah, it was packed all 3 days, and there were so many faces that I'd never seen before in my life.
Yeah.
So there was a massive jump in just interest in partly being a part of that community sort of thing of like, we're finally able to get back together and do shows.
Yeah.
But there was a whole new group of kids that had found it through the internet, through YouTube and shit.
I've noticed that a lot in the last, 2 years probably, 2 year. It's just so many different faces.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we hit that point in the cycle where for my generation, like I'm in my 40s, so it's like that generation of we're aging out. And I remember when we were coming in, there was a group of a much older generation that was slowly aging out. And we were kind of at that point where we respect them for the groundwork they've done, but when the music's very different at this point, we don't really care too much about what they're musically doing.
Yeah.
And you get that generational shift. And I think we might be on the cusp of like their next generational shift.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't really feel like hardcore has like an age limit though. It's just a weird one. I watched something with my friend Cam, and he said that I got to remember what he said because it was so accurate. I think it was something like hardcore is a place for tourists because people come and go.
Yeah.
Like people will come into it and they will leave, and only the real ones will survive. And
Absolutely.
That is so true. Because
so the way I've looked at that is I look at when a band's kind of blown up and it's dragged in new people. So, for example, for my generation, it would be in your Biohazard and Madball. But with a load of people of my age, a lot of them disappeared after a while and a few stuck around. And then Hatebreed blows up.
Yeah.
More people come in. Some stick around, some fade. Terror blows up. Some stick around, some fade. Trapped Under
Terror
Ice.
Have blown up like 5 times though. They just keep going.
Trapped Under Ice was another one. Trapped Under Ice blew up, and a new generation came in with them, and some of them stuck around. But it does this sort of growth and shrinkage thing where it sort of blows up massive, and then it shrinks back just to the handful that are going to stick around.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think you've also got to remember, hardcore was originally intended as a youth movement.
Yeah.
And now we can't get some of the old people to fuck off to let the younger ones come through.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was always historically very gate-kept as well.
Yes.
But that seems to be wearing off.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this on a few podcasts as well, and I said it on the one that May was on. There was a thing she said on a forum years and years ago that always stuck with me, and I think it's very apt for our scene. It's like, we will welcome anyone in. So we're happy for people to turn up at shows, but just because you've turned up at a show, don't expect us to welcome you with open arms and be like, oh, you're one of the crew and da-da-da-da-da. That takes time. And I think that's where some people fall off because they're almost like, I've turned up at your little local show. I should be like in there straight away. And it's like, well, we don't know who you are. It takes a little while. And that's where the gatekeeping to an element comes in.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, I mean, I know people hate gatekeeping, but I do think it's somewhat necessary with hardcore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I don't really know. I think it's hard because if you're a fan of hardcore, I can see why people would think that. But I think if you're a band, it's different,
more
isn't it?
there.
Because if you can play shows to 300 people instead of 40,
yeah, you want the 300, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like
one of the things I've learned is that sort of thing of like, I don't care who the people are at the show now, as long as they're going off. If they're enjoying themselves, I don't give a shit. And I learned that probably more as a promoter than as a band member.
Yeah.
Because as a promoter, you're sitting there looking at that bottom line and thinking, I've got to pay all these fucking bands.
Yeah.
I just want bodies through the door. And then beyond that, I hope they're enjoying themselves because then they come back for the next show and the next show and the next show.
Yeah, of course.
Like the biggest kick I ever got out of radio was like the end of a night and people leaving and they'll be like, oh, that was such an amazing show. And they'll just be buzzing from the show. And you're like, yeah, that's the kick as a promoter. Like, yeah, we've done something that people have really enjoyed.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. I think as well, Radio I did quite a few different venues, right, as well.
We did. So we started off with Tea Chances, the small room in Tea Chances.
I remember that place. That was in North, right?
Yeah, Tottenham.
Yeah. I think I saw Turnstile there.
Yes, so Turnstile was in the big room and we did a couple of shows in the small side room.
Right.
Yeah, because it was Turnstile and 9 Bar.
Yeah, that was great. Great.
That was a great show.
Didn't Knuckle
but we
Dust play as well?
I don't know if they played that show, but Knuckle Dust have definitely played that room.
Oh right, maybe it was 9 Bar then.
Because I remember, actually, it might be Knuckle Dust because I remember I saw Knuckle Dust at that venue and someone landed on my head and knocked me clean out.
I think it was 9 Bar as well. You know, I think it was both.
It might have been both, yeah.
Because it was
My
an all
memory's
day,
fuzzy
right?
as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an all day where I got pissed off with the bar because they were charging £3 for a Coke, and she literally got it out of a 3 litre bottle of
Oh, I
Coke
hate when
that said that said £1.50 on the side of it.
That's awful.
Poured out a cup and charged me £3 for it, and I just literally pushed £1.50 over to her. I was like, "That's it." I was like, "Technically, I've just rebought your bottle. Go fuck yourself."
You can't be charging more than £1 if it's not from off tap.
The fact that the bottle says £1.50
Yeah.
for this massive fucking bottle, you're trying to charge me £3 for a cup of it. I was like, nah, like, I'll buy the bottle's worth for the cup. I'll pay you back for the bottle, and that's it.
That would really push me over the edge. No, I'm not a fan of when they do that. I think if you're going to sell Coke, you need to have it on a syrup machine.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually prefer Coke out of a bottle than the syrup machine because yeah, mate, some of them pipes are rancid.
Do you know what though? I think that McDonald's Diet Coke is my favourite thing ever to this day.
See, I have this thing where I'm like, if I'm going to drink Coke, I'll always drink full fat because if I'm going to drink something that fucking poisonous, I might as well go all the fucking way with it.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, like tap stuff because I always find the mix is a bit off.
Yeah.
Like there's either too much syrup or too much water in it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You get some rough ones. I went to Five Guys the other day and it was like, I think it's like £3.50 for a drink or £4 for one of their fancy drinks.
Yeah.
It tasted disgusting.
I just remember getting Coke from the tap at the Underworld or the World's End pub above it.
Yeah.
And it tastes like shit, but I would always be sick the next day.
Oh, really?
Always be ill. And like, I found out from Jake when he was working there, he was doing all the bar work there. And he was like, yeah, he went, before he got there, the taps hadn't been cleaned out in fucking ages properly. Like the lines for the coconut hadn't been cleaned out for ages.
That's so bad. Man, I wish they would do more shows at Underworld.
Yeah, I understand from a hardcore point of view why they don't, because I found out how expensive it was when we looked into hiring it out.
It's like £1,000, isn't it, that they want for a night?
It's £1,000 for like a standard night. If you want to do an all dayer now.
How much is it for an all dayer then?
Well, we only asked for the night and then sort of extrapolated from that because it was like, okay, so they're not going to double the price for an all dayer. It's not going to be £2,000, but you're probably looking at 1,500.
God, it's a lot of money, that, isn't it?
And if you're doing the Underworld, you're going to need some big bands on there to fill it because it's quite a big venue.
What, 500 cap, right?
It's 500 cap, yeah.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound a lot for a lot of bands, but like when you're thinking about hardcore perspective,
it's hard
that's
getting past that 200 mark, to be honest.
Yeah, so you're now looking at like international bands that are going to pull that.
Yeah.
So now you're looking at another couple of grand on top of your 1,500 before you've gone anywhere.
It's a lot of money in there. Yeah. And I presume they just don't need the the custom from external bookings.
No, because what they used to do a deal where, like, I think this is what some were saying they used to do with some people, is like you would know the people there, so they would go, well, we will take on the costs, but obviously any profit comes to us as well. You just do the organising side of it and it goes under your name. And it's like, that's cool, but then, okay, I don't inherit any risk, but I also don't get anything beneficial out of it either.
Don't get any money either.
You're just basically working for the Underworld at that point.
Yeah.
You're like you're like basically a freelancer.
Yeah, that doesn't get paid. So you work for it, but you don't get any money.
You get exposure.
Yeah.
As a promoter. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to do that. Like, I get why you do that if you really want to put a show in. There are certain bands you wanted to do that you weren't ever going to get to see otherwise, and that's the way of doing it.
Yeah, it's just
But I
fucking.
was always quite sort of proud of the fact that we started with something like £100
Yeah,
between the four of us. It was like 25 quid in each, and built from that.
yeah, that's a good way to do it, isn't it? It's the best way to do it, really. And there's loads of other venues in London. I mean, I just feel somewhat attached to the underworld.
Yeah, I mean, we used downstairs at the Dome for the first couple of fests.
I was at that one. That was good. I like that. But I feel like that venue is only suitable for fests. It's too fucking big.
Although saying that, Split Knuckle fucking sold it out at the start of the year for their album launch. That was nuts.
What's the capacity on that venue?
It's not as much as the Underworld, I don't think. So I think you're looking at about, I want to say between 300 and 350.
Yeah,
it's around the same sort of thing as what.
So much bigger than that.
Yeah, I think it's around the same sort of capacity as New Cross Inn, but it's just a different shaped room, so it looks bigger.
Yeah.
Because New Cross Inn is very sort of wide, but not particularly deep.
Yeah, no. But then
it feels like everyone's closer to the stage.
Yeah. Yeah, Boston Music Rooms, isn't it?
Yeah, which is now reverted to being downstairs at the Dome, apparently.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, apparently it's gone back to that name.
Oh, right.
Which
weird.
But yeah, seeing Split Knuckle sell that out, I was like, fucking hell, like, because that, again, it's one of them things that shows that UK hardcore can, when it's promoted well and the band are good, can sell out venues without the use of an American band being on top of it, a headline or whatever. A good UK hardcore band with good music, good people, and then promoted well enough can sell out a venue.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I mean, I think one of the big things for me that makes me want to go to a show is if it's not at the New Cross Inn.
I mean, I've got a lot of respect for New Cross Inn because of like what they've done for us, but at the same time, there's a lot of shows there.
I have nothing against the venue at all, and I actually quite like the venue. It's just a pain in the ass to get to, and it just feels like for a long time it was the only one used.
It was.
And it's like, we live in London. Like, there's so many venues. Why is there not so many shows at other places as well?
So you've got to remember that they have their own sort of in-house promotion.
Yeah,
which getting a lot of the shows there. So, for example, Real Life, I think Real Life is pretty much in-house with the venue.
No,
so Theo books essentially for the venue.
Yeah.
And therefore, he's based there. 99% of his shows are going to be at the New Cross Inn.
Absolutely, yeah.
And because he's got the contacts and all the rest of it to get the hardcore bands over.
And that's the thing, isn't it? He gets 99% of the shows.
Yeah. Because there's not any other real I mean, okay, take that back. There are other promoters in London, but there's no one promoting in London at that level.
No.
Possibly because they don't have the finances behind them to do it, or they don't have the contacts to do it with. Like, they haven't reached out to the agents, or they don't have their agency contacts.
Yeah.
Theo has, and that we used to have. I mean, we found at the end, if we wanted certain American bands, there was only certain ones that we were going to get.
Right.
Like the younger, more hype bands, Theo would get because he had more financial ability to get to them. Whereas older bands that were willing to take a bit less, such as Strife, we were able to get, sort of thing.
I also feel like, as well, I assume a lot of the bands that he books are through Stronger, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you're an agent and you've got someone who's working really well with you, you just give them all
the bother. Yeah. So it used to be Stronger would come to us and Theo, basically.
Yeah.
If Theo didn't want it, they'd bounce over to us and be like, hey, do you guys want to put this show on?
Yeah.
Or do you want these bands? And we'd be like, yeah, okay. We'd look at some of the stuff. But towards the end, I become very adamant about the fact that I wanted to promote UK hardcore.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, it's what we'd set up to do when we'd originally set out to do radio. I was like, I want to make sure we have a really strong presence of UK bands. And somewhere along the line, we kind of lost our way and started booking a lot of like touring bands and stuff like that. And it was cool. We got some good shows out of it. But I always felt that we'd kind of lost our way a little bit with that.
Yeah, I guess it's the natural progression, though, isn't it? It's like you've done, because with UK bands, there's only so many UK bands you can book, and then once you've completed it, then you sort of start booking your touring packages. I think what happened is you just became proper promoters, right?
Yeah, weirdly.
Like you started putting on some fests for the boys, and then what happened? Is in somewhere along the line is you got yourself a new job as a promoter.
It was essentially that. It was like 4 idiots came together with £100 and put a couple of shows on. And then I think, because Rich was in Tantrum at the time, so it'd come around where, like, obviously he was working closely with Tim and Cold Hard Truth, and their 10th anniversary was coming up.
Right.
So we were like, we'll do an all-dayer. I think Tim had approached Rich about it before Radio Hour was a thing, and Rich just kind of melded it into a Radio Hour promotion sort of thing where we got round to it. And that was we were doing it as an all-dayer, and that was a testing ground for a fest.
Where was that? Was that Boston Music Rooms?
That was Boston Music Rooms, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like, that was very much the testing ground for, can we do an all-dayer? And then once we'd done it, the next year was like, do you reckon we can do a fest?
Yeah.
And that's where we settled on the Friday evening and the Saturday all day. Because the whole thing we were saying was like, yes, people will come on a Sunday, but they want to leave early. They're knackered from the Saturday night, and they've got work on the Monday. So unless it's a bank holiday weekend, doing a Sunday is never great.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
So
it only works if you've got a absolutely stacked lineup.
Yeah, so we would do the Friday evening and make sure we had a good headliner for that, and then we'd do the Saturday all day sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that became our fest. And the first one we did was Marauder.
Yeah, I remember that.
At the Boston Music Rooms, and then the next year after that was Strife and Archangel at New Cross.
I don't remember that one. I definitely remember the Marauder one, and I went to it, but I don't remember the Friday or who played. I don't know if I went to the Friday.
Off the top of my head, neither do I. I don't know if we did the Friday at the same venue. We might have done the Friday at a different venue at that point.
Yeah, I feel like you might have, you know.
And then the next year we did Strife headline the Friday and Archangel headline the Saturday. And
you did UK Hardcore Returns, right? Was that straight after the pandemic?
Yeah, that was literally like the pandemic had gone, everyone had kind of got back to their jobs and all the rest of it, and then we were still waiting for venues to be able to open up properly. Yeah. And bigger venues like Brixton and that could open up, and then it slowly sort of filtered down to like our size venues.
Yeah.
And the weird thing with that was all throughout the pandemic, when it was sort of on and off and on and off and all the rest of it, we'd been talking to bands. It was like, we want to do this big show. Problem is, we don't know when it's going to happen. So we need you guys to be ready to go at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we can do it, we're doing it. And I was actually amazed at how few people pulled out.
Right.
Because I was honestly expecting us to have a real fucking issue with everyone going, shit, no, sorry, it's too short notice. We can't do it. I've got work on this, that, or the other.
Yeah, but
we only had a gig. Yeah, but I think we only had like 1 or 2 bands pull out because they couldn't do it at the end. But that was 3 full days at New Cross Inn.
Yeah, I remember.
Fucking insane.
Who headlined the days?
Oh, fuck me.
Was it
That is a very good question.
Renounced? Did they do one?
Renounced played. I don't know if they headlined. I know we put on, that was the Chisels' first show.
Right.
But they were on really early in the day because it was their first show. I'll be fucked if I can remember who headlined though. That is a very good question.
Got to be Knuckle Dust, right?
No, Knuckle Dust played the year. Knuckle Dust played our last year.
Right.
The final one. I'll be fucked if I can. Yeah, because the last one we did was Knuckle Dust 9 Bar Caliber Cruelty, Split Knuckle. Let me see if I can find a flyer for UK Hardcore Returns because I cannot remember who the fuck we had headline it. because the year before that was supposed to be shut down, and then everything got fucked for them, and they had to pull out. And then we found out there was a massive train strike happening, so we
Right.
cancelled the second day, and we only did the Friday evening because it was just an absolute nightmare. Everything got completely fucked, and that was when the decision was kind of made to like not do any more after that. I mean, I've got a for UK Hardcore returns. I couldn't tell you a headline though. The Friday, it's got Grove Street Family and Chamber.
Okay.
The Saturday's got Broken Teeth, 9 Bar, Prowler.
Oh yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
And Sunday has Renounced, Revulsion. It says Chubby, but I think Chubby and the gang might have had to pull out. If I remember correctly, Chubby and the gang ended up having to pull out.
So did Renounce headline then? Is that where I've got that from?
Oh, hang on, no. So Friday was headlined by Grove Street. Saturday was Broken Teeth. Renounced was the Sunday, yeah.
Oh, okay. That was a good one, that. I remember
Really
that.
good weekend. It's fucking mad. But like, it was also mad knackering.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think I've
yeah.
ever been that tired. I got to the end of that Sunday and I was just like, I was on my knees, just like, fucking, I just want to go home.
Yeah, I feel like you just kind of want to rent a hotel in New Cross and live there for a weekend, really.
Have you seen the fucking place attached to the New Cross Inn?
Yeah.
Never go there.
Is that a hotel?
It was a inn, hostel, fuck knows what.
Right.
But I remember
I'm
we
sure
were booking.
Paul rented a room there, you know.
Probably. People have rented rooms there, but I remember we were at a point where we were booking bands, and even the guys at the venue said, "Do not put the bands up in this place," and it's attached to their venue. And they're like, "Do not use it.
Yeah.
It's fucking horrible. Find somewhere else for your bands." It was like, "Oh, fair enough." And we started like digging around to find other places. But when even the venue that's attached to it are telling you not to use it.
Wait, so is it their hotel?
I think it's all connected. I'm not sure who owns what part of it or what, but as far as I'm aware, they're all connected as one thing.
Right.
Because you go past the entrance of the hostel hotel bit, so you get to the green room for the venue.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Because you've got like the side of the bar, you've got the little entrance.
I didn't even realise until the last time we played there that was a green room.
Right, yeah. I didn't know first.
And yeah, there is, isn't there? Yeah, you are right. It's next to the inn, isn't it?
Yeah, you got the little digilock code to get in there.
Yeah, that's it.
Which they should probably change the lock code to it, because I'm pretty sure I still have it.
Yeah. Well, you'd think, wouldn't you? I bet loads of people go in there randomly.
I mean, I know how to change the codes on them locks because I do it at work all the time. So I could just go in there with a screwdriver one day, completely change the lock and be like, "See ya."
Yeah. Hold it round to them and give your green room back.
Get your green room back. If you
£50. A locksmith will cost you 350, so you want to pay me.
Yeah. Or just be like, just to give me the venue for free every time I want to put a show on.
Yeah. Is it expensive to rent out there?
No, that was about, I think the last time I used it, it was about $250.
That's not bad.
Which, that included everything. That included your PRS and all that bollocks. Stuff like that. So the only venue I can't really remember too much about the fee of was Boston Music Rooms, because they did a deal with us for like a sliding bar thing.
Right, okay.
So the more the bar took, the less we paid on the venue. And by the end of certainly the end of the Cold Hard Truth show, but I think also the Marauder one, they owed us money. Because they took so much money at the bar at them shows. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, they would.
It's that thing of like the drinking side of hardcore instead of the straight edge side of hardcore.
Yeah, well, London's got a lot of drinkers, isn't it?
Yeah, and they just bury their money into the bar. So it was just like, by the time we got to the end of them shows, the venue was like, "Oh, and we owe you this much." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" Because I'd be expected to go up there and be told, "This is what your invoice is. Pay us, you got a month to whatever," and all the rest of it. And I was just like dreading how much it was going to be. And then they're like, "Oh, we owe you 800 quid." And I was like,
"Nice.
What? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Take that. That's being buried in the account until we need it for the next show."
Thanks, London. Always doing us good.
That was the beauty. That was the first show. That Cold Half Truth show was the first time we always broke even or made a bit of profit, but the Cold Half Truth show was the first time where we was like, oh,
Yeah.
we can make enough so that next year we don't have to worry about fees and that because we've got this sort of bedrock of cash ready for the next one, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the thing. Like, once you start promoting, the bigger the show, the bigger the prize.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's terrifying. Like every single time, I was just like bricking it. I was always the pessimist.
Yeah. No one's coming to this.
When we were setting like ticket prices, I'd be like, guys, you got to remember, if you only fill 50% of that capacity, you've still got to pay the bands 100% of their fee.
Yeah.
And shit like that. So I was always like the pessimist, while I was like, Rich and Louis would be like, no, we'll be fine. I'd just like, fucking hope you're right, because like, if you're wrong, we're fucked. But then, as we started to do well each fest, and especially the fest, the standard shows were great, and we never lost money on them. But they were never like the big, that's a big chunk of money for the next show going forward, sort of thing. It was always like, okay, that's, we've made a bit of profit, it's fine. When the fests come round, you'd be like, I'm nervous because if we don't make enough money, we're fucked. But then when you get to the end of the weekend, you'd be like, we've actually made this much in profit. Yeah. So by the time we got to the last couple of ones, we weren't that worried because we kind of knew we had enough cash now saved, ready to go, that we could cover it without worrying.
And I'd like to think that if you put on a fest, right, you know in advance if it's going to flop or not, right?
It's weird with hardcore because hardcore kids do not do pre-sale. They do a bit more these days, but back then, pre-sale was like something that people didn't invest in.
Yeah. But with a fest, do they invest in pre-sale? They must do.
Maybe the week before or the week leading into. You can literally be like shitting yourself for months, being like, we've booked these bands and we've shifted 50 tickets.
To be fair, like the only reason why anyone would buy a pre-sale is in the premise that it's going to sell out.
Yeah. And bizarrely with
hardcore, as you know, for a long time, I mean, now it's a little bit different, that it's not going to sell out.
Yeah. And that was the thing, like, you would, the last show, the UK Hardcore Return sold out, and the last fest we did sold out before, like, the day. Yeah. And there was a couple of other shows we did. I think we did the, what was the fucking band? It was Cold Hard Truth, Split Knuckle, and a touring band, and for some reason I'm blanking on it. But that's, Enemy Mind.
Oh, yeah.
And that sold out before we opened doors.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, there were like the 3 or 4 shows I remember selling out in advance. Everything else that we sold out would sell out like on the day through walk-ups. Yeah. Now it seems to be a lot different. I know loads of people now, like you see loads of shows sold out long before the event now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I bought tickets to that. Was it Missing Link, Gridiron, and all of them lot?
Oh yeah, the Triple B thing.
Yeah, I bought it the day it came out because I was like, it's going to sell out, so I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but now even like I say, like even I call them a local band, but like Split Knuckle, local band, sold out.
Yeah. That was very well marketed though.
Yeah, that's what a good promoter is supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Who put it on? Was it them?
I think it was them themselves. Yeah.
It's good that they did well.
And that's the thing, like, because they're invested in what they're doing, they're going to promote it well.
Yeah.
I think there's that element. It's like, I was at the Full Blown Chaos Ironed Out show at the 229 Club a few weeks back. And I went, it was the venue that was promoting it. And they didn't promote it at all. Like, I went through their Instagram on the night just to show to like the Ironed Out guys. I was like, they haven't done a single post about this show.
That's crazy. Was it busy?
Not really. I mean, it was okay, but I can't imagine that the venue didn't make a loss on it, unless they got a lot on the bar, because like it wasn't a full show. I mean, the fact that it got downgraded from the big room to the smaller room. I mean, I don't know on what planet they were thinking they would fill a 350 cap venue upstairs
on a Sunday as well, right?
On a Sunday on a show that you didn't promote. So obviously it got downgraded. And then it was like, even then, it was nowhere near full.
Also, 229, where the hell is that?
By Marble Arch. It's a great venue, location-wise.
Oh, is it? That's a wicked place.
Yeah, it's like sort of Marble Arch, Baker Street way.
Oh, class.
Like, it from a central point of view, it's perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know what the deal is with them renting it out to other promoters.
Oh, okay. One of them.
Like, because from what I've seen, they seem to do a lot of stuff internally. Now, they might do it external promoters, but they might also charge a fuck ton of money for it based on where it is.
Yeah.
So, it'd be interesting because it is a great venue, like placement-wise, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because no one can say they can't get to it. It's literally central London.
Yeah. Yeah, they need more like it, really.
Yeah, so... But I just have a feeling they charge a shit ton for it.
I mean, probably if it's central.
Yeah.
I would assume.
Because I'm assuming the rent that they're paying on the fucking venue at some point.
Yeah, it must be so expensive.
So, yeah. But that was a good venue. Just, again, on that particular night, they didn't do their job, and that's why it didn't sell out. Whereas, compare that to Split Knuckle promoting their own show earlier at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Sell it out because they do the job.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the way to do it, isn't it?
It's just, I think you either have to be a promoter that's in the scene and has a passion for the music, or the bands themselves have to do the work.
Yeah, 100%.
Like put on their own shows and promote it themselves, because that way you know you're going to get the job done.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Definitely. Yeah, you've got, haven't you? You just, yeah. I think if you're a promoter, I think as well, a lot of the time that the risk is what drives good promotion. Whereas if you've just got a venue and it's whatever, you know, there's no risk.
Think it's that thing it's that thing of like, if you're either a promoter because of the fact that like, you own the venue or whatever and you're doing it internally, or you're just a promoter who's rich as fuck and just doing it for a side hustle, you're not going to care as much.
No.
When you're in the position that we used to be in, where it was like, if this fucks up, none of us have any spare cash to add to this. There's no money, like, I could go and draw from the cash machine to add to it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like, now I'm going to promote the shit out of it because I don't have the money to back it up. It's like, this goes well and it sells enough tickets, or I'm fucked.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
And that drives the promotion. It's like, I can't afford this, so...
Well, I need to make sure people come to my fucking gig, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that definitely helps.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, have you got any more video shoots coming up then, or?
I've got Torn Between.
Yeah.
I might try and do a Desolated one in Brighton because it's sold out. It looks like it's going to be a really good show.
Yeah.
But it's just a case of finding people to operate cameras for me. And
did I see you? Was that an Instagram post?
Yeah,
the other day? I saw it, yeah.
It's really difficult because you end up with people that are really fucking good at camera op stuff, but they haven't got a clue what a pit is. So,
right, yeah,
they don't know what to film.
Yeah. Have you what's the Beastie Boys video? Hey man, I shot that, and they gave out like 20 cameras to the crowd.
Oh, is it? I haven't seen that.
It's a video they did of a live show, and it's called like "Fuck Man, I Shot That" or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's their live performance, but they gave out a bunch of cameras to the crowd.
Right.
And the crowd shot everything, and then they took all the cameras back. I'm amazed they got all the cameras back, but apparently they did.
Yeah.
And then they edited it all together. Obviously took the sound off the soundboard because God knows what the fucking GoPros would have sounded like. And then edited. It gives you the feeling of a live show.
Right.
Because it's that sort of manic cutting between different people's points of views and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of like main cameras as well that I
Right.
cut back to for stuff. But no, that sort of thing is like, it's cut all over the place because, like you say, average person in the audience probably doesn't know what to film
Mm.
specifically.
It's tricky. I think the problem is what you get people that are really good with cameras that are like, oh yeah, I'm going to do a nice low angle, and it's like you just want wide pit footage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to look at like close-ups of someone's fists. Like no one cares. They want to see who's got the best spin kick.
Yeah. It's like that the Everybody Gets Hurt tour of Japan.
Yeah.
And you see the pits in that, and it's just like, yeah, that's what you want to see. You want to just see a wide shot from sort of looking down at the pit.
Yeah.
Everyone going fucking batshit crazy.
Yeah.
But surely you could probably do that with a couple of like fucking stand type things.
It's risky. I'm really, really like tripod footage for anything with energy is just like a big no-no. For me, I just want it kind of handheld and slightly chaotic, but it's just finding people to film it that actually know what they're filming rather than you sort of, because the problem is as soon as you've got someone doing spin kicks and stuff like that, like as a mosher there's a tier list of spin kick, what I mean? Like you see someone do a spin kick and you're like, oh, that was fucking class. But then you watch someone who's the second gig that they've ever been to bust out a spin kick and you're like, oh, mate, you need to get in that garden and practice a bit more, son.
You've got like the Joey Drake level.
Yeah.
Where it's just this fucking chaotic werewolf of fucking moves sliding around. And then you've got like some kid who's been to like 5 shows and can't get his leg above his waist and...
Yeah, but still is giving it a damn good try.
Yeah.
But the problem is to someone who doesn't go to a hardcore show, they look like the same thing.
Yeah.
So you're like, they just film. It's just hard to get them to film the right stuff. I think that's the tricky part.
And then it's like, if you get a show and you've got no one that is particularly like a crazy fucking
and then
mosher.
You wasted loads of money on camera rentals and you're like, oh. Which always happens.
Yeah.
Always happens that.
It was a discussion we were having about the low life thing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's great if 50 people turn up and they're all great dancers, but if 50 people turn up and only one of them actually starts fucking going mental and it looks good, then you've got footage of one guy pinwheeling around like a lunatic.
Yeah. It's just... It's really hard. It's really, really, really fun.
Like footage for hardcore shows, I imagine to be quite a risky proposition because you're like, I don't know what I'm going to get. It's a live show.
If you're going to film someone like Speed or, even Split Knuckle, like, to be honest, like, even with them, like, 95% of their shows in London are going to be good. Like, they can sell out 300 cap venue. They know it's going to be good. You're probably gonna get good footage, I would think, but then it's just like I find it really difficult not to getting my hopes up and then being disappointed. So I'm like very pessimistic when it comes to it. But I would like to do it. I think it seems like a good time to do it. And the song that we want to do it for is only like 1 minute and 15 seconds. So it's not hard to fill.
Again, if the pit footage is from any other song, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No one's going to care.
Because you can edit it to the song anyway. It's like you just want, at some point during your set, to be an explosive pit that you can film.
Yeah.
And then cut around it or whatever as you need to do for the song.
Yeah, and then put it in slow motion so it takes like double the amount of time.
Yeah, all the tricks, a bit of blur, motion blur.
Yeah. Motion blur.
Good bit of motion blur. Always cover up some gaps.
Yeah, definitely. And also as well, I was thinking like, even if I just record Tony like on the streets doing the vocals and then mix it in with the just straight pit footage, then it's like 1 minute and 13 seconds, I think the song is. So it's so easy to get it. It's
Yeah.
I actually got to think about stuff. Like I think you could just get footage and just go from there.
If you can get footage of Tony doing the vocals walking down the street to the venue, so you do the whole Beastie Boys thing of like opening up the venue and he gets on stage.
Yeah, we did that for the last video.
Yeah.
But he does that, he's in the toilet. So he makes his way to the stage via the toilet. It's like it's proper 8 Mile flex. Yeah, it's good. That was my reference for it. I was like, I want to make it like 8 Mile.
I bet Tony was well up for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he knew where it was from.
He must have he must have done, surely.
But it looks pretty similar, to be honest, if not exactly the same, really. It's good because I think like what I wanted to do, I didn't shoot it. It was Daniel Priest. It was absolutely amazing. But my sort of brief to him was like, well, look, the song is like very much a song about a person, and like Tony is like the new singer or whatever. Like we need to make it about him. It needs to just be, this is Tony, this is the introduction to him, and it will be the first we release. So it is basically just Tony for 3 minutes. And
we'd have loved that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But
Tony being the centre of attention for 3 minutes, yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he does. I don't think he likes. I don't think.
No, I know
likes
he doesn't.
Videos. I think he gets quite uncomfortable, to be honest.
Oh, I can't think of Idle Hands ever shooting one, did they? So like, it's probably his first experience of like really doing it, and then he's doing it in like.
I suppose actually, maybe the reason why he didn't like doing it when he was doing the other Desolated one was because he didn't have a big role in it. Whereas now he's like, he's got the role.
Yeah, he's the man now.
I think he just pretends to absolutely hate it, but secretly loves it.
It's kind of like me playing a live show where I'm like, before the set kicks in and I'm just waiting by the side of the stage, whatever, I'm like, I fucking hate this bollocks. Why the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah.
As soon as it kicks in, though, I go absolutely apeshit and I love it.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there at the start of the set before, fuck me, like, do I have to do this? Does someone else want to sing these songs for me? Because I can't be fucked.
Yeah. Whereas Tony's sort of like getting dressed, trying on outfits, being like, oh God, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. I'm going to get there 10 minutes early and make sure I look good in the place we're going to stand. Yeah. I reckon
fair play to him.
That's his thing. Yeah, I mean, it looked good though. I mean, he smashed it, and that video looked sick. So it's just about getting probably 1 or 2 more. I kind of want to just direct it myself, really, because it just makes more sense because it's fun.
It keeps it in house as well.
Yeah. I mean, I liked working with Daniel a lot. I thought it was really good, but it's just like I kind of want to. I just like making videos, so yeah. And
do it. End of the day.
Tony, and it's good because it means I can just do my idea, and really push for what I want to create, which is cool.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah, I think that'll be. I think I'll do one proper one with a bit of a budget for this record, maybe.
Yeah, fucking go for it. At the end of the day, the worst that can happen is it's a learning experience, and you go,
I just fuck
okay,
it. Yeah.
You go, okay. I've got what I've got out of this. It's not what I was aiming for, but I've learned this. I've learned not what to do next time.
Yeah, definitely. So. And I did that with the last Desolated video because that was the first video I made, the Victim one. And then I made Low Life one after that, and it looks so much better than the Desolated one. So much better. That first
I feel
one.
like I've been on another video shoot with you besides the Low Life one. Was
it not the first Low Life one?
So you've done 2 Low Life ones?
Yeah, there was the one. They're both in Bermondsey, weren't they? The first one was at that abandoned place.
Yes, that was it.
That was wicked. That looks so fucking sick.
That was the one where like everywhere we stepped, it was like, is there fucking needles on the floor and shit?
Yeah. And I walked into a makeshift gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was like a squat gym. Yeah, that was a cool one, and I liked that one. And I remember after I finished it, I was like, "This is probably what the Desolated one should have looked like." So, yeah, I want to kind of revisit it, to be honest, because I think I was so. I don't know. I was just it was just a big task, that first Desolated one, where I just didn't really know how to navigate it, and I thought I was super prepared, but just wasn't really.
I think you find that with the first time you do anything. Like the amount of times when I started the podcast, I thought it was going to be a lot less work than it actually is. Because even though I don't edit or I don't cut anything, there's still that element of like, okay, well, I've got to at least balance the voices and the EQ and stuff on it. Because if, for example, I'm using a mic, but the other people are generally on their phones or something, the levels are all over the place. So I then have to try to go back in at least. And I'm not a producer, so I match the stuff as best I possibly can.
Yeah.
Just to get it to at least be half decent when someone listens back to it. But yeah, like I didn't realise that was going to be as much. I didn't realise that even that thing was going to take as much time as it does.
Yeah.
When you've got like a 2.5, 3 hour podcast to literally sit through and listen to it all about, okay, I need to tweak that, I need to change that bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I will just find like a 10-minute section, listen to that on a loop, EQ that, and then just slap that EQ on the whole thing and be like, that'll do.
Yeah. That you've kind of got to kind of find ways to sort of cut corners, because you can't be sat there listening to a 3-hour podcast. No. Make sure the audio's fine the whole way through.
If you look back at the one I did with Andy Baz, that's like 4 hours long.
Wow.
It's like a 4-hour podcast, and I can't even remember what we talk about. It's mainly films and shit. Right. It's just like waffling on about Star Wars and God knows what else. But like to then have to sit back and re-listen to it after that, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I've just had this conversation. Do I want to listen back to the conversation as well?
It's a lot of listening. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got to listen to your own voice,
like,
which is the hardest part. Because I hate listening to my own voice.
I fucking hate it, yeah.
But apparently we're programmed as people to hate it. That's what I learned.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to hear yourself.
No.
Like nature doesn't allow you to hear yourself as a raw thing. Like the voice you hear in your head is vastly different to what you hear come back out of the speaker.
It's changed because obviously if you... If your brain didn't alter it, there would be latency, which would make you feel really confused all the time, because you would speak and you would hear it later, so your brain puts it at the same time as you think it, which then changes the pitch, tone, and all of the other things to kind of how you feel most pleasant.
Yeah, it's
so
what your brain thinks is who you should sound like.
Oh wow, is that how I sound?
Yeah, it took me a while to get used to it, and obviously I've done a few episodes of the podcast now where I'm kind of a lot more used to hearing it back.
Yeah, you get used to it, I suppose, don't you?
But it took a while. I was like, ooh, you just like cringing at the sound of your own voice. But again, it is what it is. But we've been going for about 2.5 hours now.
Yeah, it's my bedtime as well.
Yeah, I need to get ready for work. Well, I need to sleep so I'm ready for work in the morning. So it's been lovely to have you on, Rich. Where can people find you if they want to contact you for making videos or stuff like that?
Instagram, Richie Unsworth. I think that's my name on there.
Let me have a look. Was it Richie Skins I found? But
yeah, I feel
that might be just what it comes up as.
I think the username is Richie Unsworth. I tried to change it, it wouldn't let me.
Yeah, the username is Richie Unsworth, and it comes up as Ricky Skins.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one on there. That's the best place. It's the only thing I really check. So.
Yeah, fair enough. So anyone wants any video work, I can attest. I've been on the video shoots with him. It's amazing to work with. The quality comes out is always amazing. So if you're looking for that, check him out there, and be prepared for a new Desolated album. Have you got a release date for that, or is it just?
I don't know. The single will be out next January, I think.
Cool. So January Desolated single, and then the album to follow.
Yeah, the album. I think we're just going to drip feed it up until May, because we put the record release for May, so I guess May.
Fair enough. All right, Rich. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, cheers, man. All right, and everyone, take care, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.